It is Bronze and Modern Gods. I am John.
And I'm Richard.
Hey, if you're not following us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods, please do so. It's real easy. It's at Bronze and Modern Gods on both of those platforms. Richard, if they like this video, what should they do if they're on YouTube?
If they're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button and hit the little bell icon so that when we go live, which we do time to time, you'll be alerted.
Hey, today it is viewer mail plus the 25-year rule, our underrated books of the week. And let's just get kicked off here, Richard, with our hot book of the week. Richard, tell the folks out there what it is, please.
It is Amazing Spider-Man #1, the Eminem variant.
Stupid. Go ahead.
It was available only, I say was available because it's sold out, through Eminem's online shop and originally sold for $35. If you go to eBay right now looking for it, you're going to spend between $170 to $200 on this thing.
I'm being snarky calling it stupid, and I don't know if I really believe it's stupid. I think I'm more surprised. So if you like this, please don't be offended. I'm just kidding, because I thought Eminem was really kind of over. Isn't that like going on 30 years ago now?
I am not a voice for the young people today. Let's put
The
it that
youngsters.
way.
Well, let's think about it. 8 Mile's 20 years old at this point.
Oh man, that is scary. Um, yeah, I guess Eminem is of that OG type of generation for people. I
Mhm.
can't speak. I don't listen to that newfangled internet stuff, so I don't know how he stacks up. But apparently he has fans because this book sold out immediately. There's a signed version of this book that's available,
Yeah.
and it's selling. I've heard of prices $300-$400 for the signed book. So
Well,
uh,
one copy of the signed book sold listing on eBay for $1,600, $1,700.
oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Just insanity.
One-offs. I like to see a history before I claim it's going to be a book of
Yeah.
that value. But yeah, it's insane for a book that literally just came out. So
Um, the hip hop variants, this is nothing new. We had Marvel hip hop variants.
mhm.
We just had the Deadpool and Notorious B.I.G. Cover come out. I'm frustrated because I tried to get when I worked for a major record label that will remain nameless. Just look behind me on the wall if you want a hint. I tried to get stuff like this going all the time with comics, and the only success I had was the Monkeys and the Archies. And to see it happening now, I think I'm green. I'm a little jealous because it was like, hey, I had this idea years ago.
But
Um,
so far it's like Eminem. This is he did a book with Iron Man on the cover
yeah,
with Iron Man. He had his own. There was another Eminem comic that was released that was a part of a larger magazine. I can't remember the name of that,
but
but he's so
it seems authentic. It seems like he's a fan.
yeah. Yeah, I think he is a fan, and that's great. I don't know how. I don't know if we're going to see Missy Elliott or little Nas X do their own comics, but for people who are fans like him, I expect to see more from him.
I don't know how closely you looked at the cover art, Richard, which is all from Salvador Larroca, which is amazing. But there's Miles in the front row.
Oh, is he really? I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
The Black Panther's hiding in there. Spider-Gwen's way in the back. Daredevil's up in a tree. So little, I wouldn't call them Easter eggs because if you look at it, you
Mhm.
can actually see them. But I thought that was cool. What do you think? Any long-term hope for this book holding its value, or do you think this is one of those flash in the pan variants?
I see it. I see it having a value. I don't know if I would pay $1,700 for it, uh, but I could see this book settling in at a reasonable price. Well, let's say a couple $100, $300 of a settlement, which isn't bad for a book long term. Or it could be there's rabid fans that hold this book in high value, and there's more fans than there are books, and then it stays around this price range. It's too early to really tell, but I know Eminem fans like his comics, and they will keep it to a certain value.
It's funny, my initial skepticism at this book when we have a segment on this very show called the 25-year rule, and Eminem's heyday is coming up on 25 years. So you don't have to leave a nasty comment for me. I just corrected myself here. I think it's a cool thing. If I was an Eminem fan, I'd be a lot more jazzed, I think.
Mhm.
But I don't
I'm
know.
waiting to see Eminem, and the new Captain America, them on the cover,
Yeah, because
recreating that 8 Mile scene. That would be cool.
that's a good point. I had not thought of that. I thought you're going to wait and say. I thought you were saying you were waiting to see Eminem and the Green Eminem on the covers together.
That would be interesting in a different kind of way, yeah.
I love her white go-go boots always got me. I like that. She's very stylish, that green M&M. Moving on to viewer mail.
You've got mail.
Boy, we had a focus on DC the last couple of weeks and comics in general and the problems therein with the writing and the art, those things behind those covers. And you guys had lots to say. So we have a little expanded edition of viewer mail this week. Richard, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I'll start it off with Alan Carr.
Surely not the British comedian that wears glasses, Alan Carr. If you are, I'm a big fan. Go ahead.
By the way, note to the DC Comics think tank: take a leaf from the Book of Modern Bronze and Modern Gods. Tell a good story, entertain thoroughly. Oh, and better use classic four-color format that worked in the past. Keep the punters coming back. Problem solved. The Gold Key Kid. Yeah, and I wasn't. I mean, I looked at this comment. I looked at it a couple different ways, and I think he's onto something. For the four-color comic comment. DC has its, at least in my mind, a strong traditional base in those older formats, the classic Silver Age and Golden Age comics. I think DC had its highlights, its high notes in that era. Why not do a book that comes out today that uses that same art process, has the similar storylines, and just basically extend those 1960s Superman and a Legion of Superheroes, and just do modern day versions of those comics. I think there's a market for something like that, because I know people like those books as opposed to some of the darker things that they put out nowadays.
Do you not think that maybe that's just yearning from aging out fans? I mean, would you actually go buy a four-color Legion of Superheroes book that's not on slick paper with full computer process coloring?
Well, what DC is doing now isn't working for them. I think they have a stronger base of older fans than Marvel has,
Mhm.
and I think they're trying to cater to a younger audience, and I'm not sure it's working out for them, to be honest.
They have to, or they're going to die. I mean, we're not going to be around for another 50 years, hopefully.
No, we're not. But given the pace that DC is going at, I don't know if they're going to be around for another 50 years. They need something to they need something to reinvigorate themselves. They don't need to be Marvel, but they need to be at a point where they're self-sustaining. And I know they've just rebooted, and I'm hoping above hope that it's successful for them. I love DC. DC is how I started off in comics. Um, but I just know that I feel that they're kind of lost right now, and I think in the short term they could produce something that appeals to us older people, because frankly us older people got money to spend on a $10 comic, that the young ones out there may not be able to, or be willing to spend. So don't discount us old folk in the short term to be able to make a profitable business.
But the newsstand, the newsprint, sorry, not the newsstand, the newsprint idea, four-color process thing. I'm remembering reading something, and you guys tell me if this is my imagination or if I'm right. I haven't Googled this, but I believe the printers cannot accommodate newsprint anymore because everybody has upgraded their equipment. It's, direct from file to the paper. So I don't know if it's almost like vinyl,
Mhm.
vinyl made a big comeback and there's only like 6 vinyl plants on the entire planet that are supposed to handle all this demand for vinyl now, and everything's backed up. So I don't know if the technology is there to do a four-color process
That
comic
may be
book.
true. I know, the presses out there now are all digital,
Yeah.
and I don't know if there is. a capacity, but we're not talking about having to print 250,000 copies of anything.
That's
Uh,
true.
the market has shown that you can have a sustaining comic with 500, 1,000 copies printed. And I know there are four color printers out there still, not in the comic book industry, but in other industries that could handle that kind of print run. And you charge them more significantly more for it. I would pay $25 for a good, not a 32 page, but a good sized square bound Legion of Superhero book that is in that art style and in that process, and helps me relive that feel of that era. I think that's doable. Just
Interesting.
like you say, we couldn't have large print runs. It would have to be something more boutique.
All right, DC, we are your market research hub. So everybody in the comments, sound off whether you would be interested in something like this or not. And by the way, our hourly rate is $567.
Oh,
Uh,
discounts, huh? Nice.
we're giving a discount to DC. They're hurting, and we want to help. Hey, my first piece of viewer mail is from Glenn Simpson, who says, "Geez, you guys are being hard on DC. First, make a distinction between reboot, continuity changes, versus relaunch, just starting books back at number one to generate excitement. DC and Marvel do the latter quite a bit, but it's all about giving new readers a chance to jump on. DC has also been giving the newer, more diverse characters some room to grow over the last couple of years, and now they're bringing back the classics to mix them back in. I just always feel like DC is number two, so they have to be louder and work harder." Glenn, you are one of many people to decry our use of the word reboot. Meanwhile, other people decried our use of the word relaunch. They were saying, yeah, so we can't win. You're saying it's, you know, not a relaunch because they're keeping the numbering. Fine. Other people are saying it's not a reboot because it's not changing continuity. Well, let me roll this back here. Superman's Secret Identity is coming back. That's a reboot.
Yeah.
They're keeping the old continuity though, apparently. So is it a reboot? Is it a relaunch? Look, they're starting over in some form or fashion. We're splitting hairs here, right? They're trying to get people back. They're wooing you back by bringing back classic characters. Let's call it a reset. How's that? So, we're splitting hairs here. I hear what you're saying, Glenn. I hear what everybody else is saying too. Call it what you want, but they're obviously baiting the hook, trying to get readers back,
Mhm.
and seems to be working. People are talking about it. Richard,
Yeah.
your next piece of your mail.
My next piece of viewer mail is from Gluck's World. Hey guys, great show. Thank you very much. I've got a DC Comics Presents number 26, first new Teen Titans. I'm surprised at how affordable this book is. Is this the DC discount, oversupply, or something else? Any insight would be appreciated. Uh, I'm a huge Teen Titans fan, and that's well known. I'm surprised too that this book is still affordable. We've had a Titans television show. We've had the Titans cartoons, both the more adult teens and then the younger teens. So there's been a lot of play for the Teen Titans. I'm surprised that their key books are still as affordable as they are. I think it's the DC discount that you mentioned, and right now, prices in general are depressed. If you're looking to pick up DC keys, now is an excellent time to do it because I think they're very, very affordable. And as I said before, I think this is cyclical. We will reach a time when the value of these books go up, and especially these older books, and you're going to be able to have a reap a profit on some judicious purchases through these slower times.
I think what happens with DC Comics Presents number 26 specifically, the Titans are on the cover, but it's a small portion of the cover because it's a bonus book inside this Superman team up book, where Superman and Green Lantern are taking center stage on that beautiful Jim Starlin cover. If the first appearance of the new Teen Titans was in something like giant size new Teen Titans number one,
Right.
I think, yeah, right? You
Yeah.
would see
Yeah.
that value. It's a bummer because it is the first appearance of the new Teen Titans. It just happens to be as a freebie in this already existing book, and it's not a big focus on the cover. So that's, it's like Strange Tales 110. For years, it sat there, even though it's the first Doctor Strange, because our man Steven is not on the cover.
Right.
You've got, the poor Human Torch versus the Trapster and the Wizard with a ball of mirrors. Not the most thrilling cover there is. So DC in particular, though, buy, as in BUY, because I don't think it's going to be this cheap in a long time. My next piece of viewer mail, speaking of DC, is from the man named Wildcat 1970. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have seen other several YouTube channels overpraising Rachel Pollack's indecipherable Doom Patrol run that I thought I was the only one that detested it and started questioning myself. Morrison's run was going to be a hard act to follow anyway, in my opinion, but yeesh. My prediction is that these lost JSA sidekicks and children will end up being the new modern day JSA when all is said and done, unable to return to the past because, well, the remaining OG GSA characters would be pushing 100 years old at this point. Good point. Rachel Pollack and Doom Patrol. Indecipherable. I'm glad you used that word because that was my issue. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I like the fact that, back in the 90s, we had a trans creator introducing a trans superhero, but the attempts at the sexual politics and satire really just fell flat. I didn't detest it like you did, Wildcat. I wouldn't say detest it. I was really indifferent to it. It no longer became a must read for me. In fact, it became a habit, and then it became a chore. And the minute it became a chore, I was out, which is a bummer because after I left, Ted McKeever came on the art, and I liked Ted McKeever, and he never had done a mainstream superhero book before. So that was really kind of a strange thing, and I did not get to enjoy that. I do see that there is a Doom Patrol Rachel Pollack era omnibus coming out, something I thought would never be reprinted and never happen. So maybe this is the time to check it out digitally. I'm not buying the omnibus. Richard, your next piece of your mail.
My next piece of mail is from Blue Ocean. I wonder if they're related to Ocean Blue.
Oh, flip it.
I don't like the modern gimmicks like universe reboots, but anything that gets DC closer to its Silver Bronze Age is okay with me. If this one involves Legion of Superheroes or CSA,
Criminal Syndicate of America, because he
okay.
mentions Owlman.
Okay, and more Owlman, please. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't recognize that particular acronym. If you want to drop a comment here and let me know.
Remember the Criminal Syndicate? They were like Ultraman, and they were like an evil Justice League from Earth,
Gotcha.
whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Anything that pulls DC closer to see, John, this is a comment that's kind of leaning towards my talk about moving back to the Silver Age,
Yeah.
Bronze Age in terms of artistic direction and storytelling. I think DC could benefit from looking at when they were the most profitable and had the biggest market share and taking lessons from that as opposed to trying to chase the MCU and Marvel. It's it's finding out. Yes, definitely DC is number two, and you had a previous comment who said they need to make more noise. I just think it means they need to be smarter about what they do and how they approach things, and do less, do more with less, until they can get to a point where the market goes back to their favor, and then they could take advantage of their deep catalog and with movies and things like that. Right now, I'm more hoping that they focus on survival because there's a lot of signals that that's an issue right now.
I don't think we'll ever be without DC Comics, and by that I mean the parent company can cut them off, but they'll license them out to someone
Mhm.
else, whether it's Disney or IDW or what have you. I think there will always be a DC comics line of some sort being published. So I'm not too afraid of that. But you have a really good point about chasing Marvel. Stop chasing Marvel. You're DC. You have things that make you unique. You have an approach that worked for you for decades. Get back to that. I mean, they tried it with Brightest Day. That
Mhm.
kind of said it, but it's got to be good. I know that's such an easy flip thing to say. Make it good, guys, but do that universe building that you do so well.
Mhm.
Uh, Multiverses are hip now. You were the first multiverse. You wiped the slate clean in 1985, but here we are again. I don't know. I do know that my next piece of viewer mail from Black Joker, black with a Q, I like that stylized. He has a really good point. DC needs a little reboot. We need Alfred back alive. Can't be Batman without Alfred, in my opinion. And we also need Bronze Tiger on the front line of comics. Let him get the spotlight after all. He's the only martial artist to one-shot Batman and never take an L from him. Stay high, fam. Um, did you know Alfred was dead?
Yes, yes, he's been dead a while, and I am just like Black Joker. I am not happy about it. I would be totally surprised if they go through the process of reintroducing Superman's secret identity. They don't bring Alfred back. We need those kinds of resets if you're planning on taking these things in a new direction.
I had no idea Alfred was dead. That depresses the living crap out of me. And it's also just dumb business when you have a TV show called Pennyworth currently on the air that's all about Alfred.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, who's in charge there? It's like having Superman without Lois Lane. It's like having Spider-Man without Aunt May. I
Yeah.
know we had that for a while and they brought her back. It makes no sense to me.
It doesn't. He's such a pivotal character in Batman's mythos. I don't know how you can have Batman without his center, which is what Alfred was for him. He brought him back to the center when he went too far in a particular direction. So,
Who's
um,
going to disinfect his back wounds?
who's going to make his bat lunch? Yeah,
Yeah, who's going to make the Wayne Manor beds?
all 40 of them.
I mean, who's going to polish the bat pole? All right, what's your next piece of viewer mail, Richard?
My next piece is from Julius Maloney. Can I suggest you pick up Wonder Woman number 793, the most recent release, The Trinity Returns. I love how they acknowledge that they were referred to as the Trinity.
Mhm.
Um, Walk Among Us. It's part of the 90s variant cover run. A gorgeous and quiet story that puts Bruce, Kal-El, and Diana back in the Watchtower. Almost Star Trek in scope, but a really lovely couple of, I dare I say, moving moments and a standalone story.
Holy
I
crap. Go
I
buy
I
this.
yeah, I read it before we recorded here, and it is like he's mentioned, it's a nice quiet story, and you get these three veterans who have obviously been through a lot, and they share a quiet moment when there's no one else around besides the three of them in the watchtower, and it's a moment of tenderness and love between the three of them that is
Hey.
yeah had me wanting to tear up there for a bit. So if you get an opportunity to read this, it definitely is worth a read because it does happen in kind of isolation of all the other storylines that are going on, and it gives these three characters a moment of reflection and quiet that they need to deal with all of the things that have happened to them recently. So definitely a great kind of bridging book. Like I said, if you get an opportunity, give it a read. And thank you so much, Julius, for recommending it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted from you guys because we can bitch and moan, but if we're not being pointed in the right direction, the bitching and moaning will continue. So please suggest more good books for us to read. I should mention that lots of you uh, got in the comments and said, "Why are you focused on Marvel and DC? There's so many good independent books out there from
Yep.
Boom and IDW, et cetera, et cetera." Yeah, we know that, but we're talking about Marvel and DC. So that was the focus. We hear you. Um, Speaking of quiet moments, my last piece of viewer mail is from Spiders Comics, who writes, "You lads are so right. My favorite part of the Mike Zeck and JMD Matthias run of Captain America is Steve Rogers having close to a normal life." Exactly. I'm currently reading issue 275, and Steve's going grocery shopping with his girlfriend and landlord right after visiting his old friend Arnie and his boyfriend Michael in the hospital. Then we move on to a freedom of speech, freedom of ideas scene using anti Semitism, vandalism as the talking point. A fantastic book, and I'm only 7 pages in. All of
Wow.
that story in 7 pages. That's what comics used to be, kids. Balancing the quiet introspection with the action scenes is vital for a good book. Exactly. If you don't give a crap about the characters, then you're not invested. All of
Right.
this
Right.
huge universe saving and the cosmos is in collision. It's so large in scope, it just loses you, right? After a while.
Yeah, it's the same with, you're right. The scope is important. The fact that Spider-Man is fighting cosmic characters when he's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, I enjoy the stories around him when they're closer to that original concept of the character. And here, having Steve actually be a normal person and exist outside of that archetypal type of lifestyle that he leads when he's in, he's Captain America. I think it's important to develop the character as a human being and not just some four color hero.
Steve Rogers doesn't exist anymore. It's Captain America 24/7. He lives at Shield or the Avengers Mansion. He has no private life. And who relates to that? We need,
Right.
we need to relate to something. I also think your point about Spider-Man, it takes more talent and more skill to write a Spider-Man versus the Tarantula story that's entertaining and fun and doesn't tread over similar ground than it is that I think it's easy to write. Oh my gosh, there's a cosmic catalyst and a Spider-Man has to join the new Avengers and to fight Thanos or whatever. That's we've seen that too. I think
Right.
quiet, smaller stakes stories are tougher to write.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
get to it, Marvel. What are you waiting for?
We're
You
full
wait
of bitching today, aren't we?
Yeah, you waiting for another 25 years to get it right? Huh? Huh?
Not bad. Not bad.
Hey, it's the 25-year rule. All right. 25-year rule this week is focused on manga. Manga is not a new thing. Manga's been around forever. And we're going to talk about something that I don't think a lot of people realize is out there. It's called Mix Zine, and we're talking about issue number 1. Came out in 1997. This is an early Viz Comics publication that reprinted the first stories of a couple of classic manga mainstays, Magic Knight's Ray Earth and Sailor Moon, for an American audience. Now, while Sailor Moon first appeared in American comics on the cover and in an issue of a book called Mangazine, this is the first reprinting of the Sailor Moon stories in English in full. This mixed zine lasted just for 12 issues before Sailor Moon spun off into her own Viz Comics series in 1998, just one short year later. This is surprisingly affordable. The issue 1 sells for 10 to 15 bucks on eBay. I am stunned these don't sell for more, considering how much Sailor Moon 1 through 4 first printings sell for in high
Mm.
grade. So, uh, the husband's going to kill me for talking about this because he hasn't bought these yet, and he's going to be like, "Why are you telling people?" So I have to buy these tonight before this episode goes live
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you better.
Let's
I
see.
was unaware of this. I did not know Sailor Moon started off in this kind of magazine.
Yeah, and don't sleep on Magic Knight's Ray Earth either. That's another very similar series about a bunch of girls that get magical powers and have to save a realm. So very popular as well if you're not familiar with that. So check it out. Mix Zine with 2 X's, not 3. And now it's time for our underrated books of the week. Richard, you start us off.
John, you must have read my mind. We're going in kind of a manga kind of angle today
Ooh.
for at least for my pick for underrated book. I picked Ninja High School #1 from 1986, the limited release. This is the first appearance of the Ninja High School cast. If you are from the mid 80s and were buying comics at a comic shop, this is one of those independent books that your comic book store carried. It takes place in the Midwest town of Quagmire. Uh,
Ah.
Yeah, it stars a 16-year-old boy, an alien princess, and a ninja girl from Japan. And over the years, the cast of characters expanded, but it's the prototypical mixed crew of teens going through impossible situations kind of storylines. Very enjoyable. I always enjoyed reading this book back in the day. It wasn't like it wasn't a glowing title, but it was good for a consistent, entertaining time. They had lots of cameos of parodies of other characters like the Powerpuff Girls, the Terminator, Harry Potter. The series started off as only being a limited series, but then it was popular enough that it ended up running as a regular title, and it ran 160 issues uh,
Wow.
proper. So, and it's credited as being one of the first American manga comics. And if you know the style, it is of the manga style, which was really unique when you compared it to the other books that I bought at the time. Um, the last sale for this book was in 2013 as a 9.8 for $100. I have to say it would probably go for a little bit more than that right now. But this book does not come up mainly because there are only 20 on the census right now. Three of them 9.8s. There's one signed book out there. I wonder who signed it. I'm curious.
Probably
So yeah, it's a harder book to find graded, but I see it sometimes, and you can find it on eBay for around $20, $30 raw. So you keep an eye out for it. It's a good book.
probably signed by Ben Dunn, the
Yeah.
creator,
Hmm.
who was, pretty popular. This was, I managed the shop back in this era, a couple shops, and we had a hardcore group of people that loved them some Ninja High School, and
Hmm.
there were a few spin-offs too, I believe. And Ben Dunn was popular enough that, Marvel let him do his own Marvel manga verse at one point in the early 2000s. So, wow, good pick. Was this Eternity Comics? I'm trying to remember.
It,
I
it
think so.
the ongoing series was Eternity. The limited series was published by someone.
Antarctic, right?
Antarctic. Yes.
Antarctic
Yes.
Press. I do remember that now. Wow, good one, Richard. I picked one that I'm not sure you're aware of, then you'll probably want these just for the covers alone, and that is Time Warp issues 1 through 5 from DC Comics. This was DC Comics' Bronze Age answer to heavy metal and epic magazines. It was supposed to be positioned as like, sci-fi fantasy for adults, but for
Hmm.
some reason they decided to make it a dollar-sized comic instead, but they slapped on some amazing good girl art covers by Michael Kaluta. Unfortunately, you open the covers, and inside were leftover inventory stories meant for Mystery in Space and other canceled horror comics. Lots of Steve Ditko, lots of Jerry Grandinetti. Uh, if that's your jam, here you go. After Time Warp was canceled after 5 bi-monthly issues, it was merged with The Unexpected, the Bronze Age horror comic, for a few issues, as the leftover inventory of sci-fi oriented stories had Time Warp branding in that comic. Issue number 1 of Time Warp sold for $98 in March of 2021. Now, I have found these to be really tough to find in high grade in the wild. I do have a run of Time Warp 1 through 5. I would say they're 9.4s or better. It took me years to find, particularly issue 5, because it has almost an all white cover. It's beautiful, but boy, it shows every flaw. Dollar Comics had bindery tears that were
Hmm.
notorious because they were too heavy for the cover stock, so they tear. But Richard, I don't know if you've ever seen these covers, but they are right up your alley.
Awesome. I am going to hunt these down. I appreciate it.
Well, short and sweet. That's going to wrap it up for this week. Richard, remind everybody where they can find us on the social medias.
They can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Bronze and Modern Gods, or the website bronzeandmoderngods.com.
If you like this video and you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, help us out. Hit like, hit subscribe, tell a friend, and spread the word. We really do appreciate all of you guys, and we will catch you next time.
Yes, everyone stay safe.